Please welcome your host, Dion.
Hey guys, Dion Taylor here. I'm sure you've all seen the Copilot summaries inside of Dynamics 365. Previously, we were only able to turn them on for leads, opportunities, accounts, and cases. But with the functionality that I'll be showing you today, we're going to be able to put these summaries on any table, any record type inside of Dynamics 365. Let's take a look on how exactly we can do that. So before I show you how the setup works for these custom Copilot record summaries in Dynamics 365 for customer service, I first want to show you the outcome. So what I've done here is I actually set this up for the customer assets table. And if you're not familiar with the customer assets table, this is actually a system table that is part of Dynamics 365 field service. But you can also set this up if you created your own custom table. So that's also something that you can do here as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and open this one customer asset that I have in my instance. That's my HVAC unit. I also have an account that owns this asset. That's Coho Winery. And then I have a functional location. So this really represents the location at the account where this device lives, right? So we can have, you can see here, this is assigned to the lobby, but it could also be assigned to a particular floor, maybe a room in a particular floor, however people set this up. Then you also see that I actually have a note in here as well with some information, right? This asset is an HVAC unit that was purchased on 5/25/98. There's been several parts that have been replaced, like the fan motor, thermostat, and furnace. And the last inspection took place on 12/15/2024. And the next one is scheduled for 12/15/2025, right? So some information that we have here. Now you can see here that this is where my customer asset summary sits. And that's something that I'm going to show you how to configure that on the form a little bit later in this video. But let me just show you real quick what happens when I click on this little arrow button, right? It actually puts together this summary for this customer asset so that I don't have to read through all the notes and all the different columns here on this customer asset, right? I actually configured what I want to use as source data to generate this customer asset summary. So now that you know what that looks like and how that works, now let's take a look into how we can configure this. This setting is part of Dynamics 365 customer service, so you would need to go to the customer service admin center in order to configure this. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to click here on productivity. And then you can see summaries right over here. So I'm just going to click here on the manage button, and that will take me to the summaries page. Now, again, I really want to set up some custom record summaries, right? So those are the record summaries that are either for system tables that don't have summaries out of the box or for any custom tables that you created yourself. Now, let's go ahead and add a new summary for, I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to do the same thing that you saw earlier, right? So this is going to be for that same table. So I'm going to look for the customer assets table. Let's just give it a second here. And here we have the customer asset table. Now, the summary name, this really represents, let me just switch back here, what you will see above the summary over here, right? So here it says customer asset summary. So that's really the name that we will put over here. So I can say customer asset summary, I can say asset summary. I can put anything in there that I would like. Then I obviously have to set the table, right? Or the record type, as you can see over here, so that it knows for which table we're going to enable this. And then we have to enter a description, if you click on this, you can see that the description is really to help Copilot understand this table, right? And the way that your organization uses it. So here we're going to enter the following information. I'm going to put in here the customer asset holds information about an asset that is installed at a customer location. Examples of customer assets are HVAC units, batteries, coils, etc. It also shows information about the work order that has been performed on the asset. Now, this is something you could do, right? If you have other information related to the asset, like work orders. In this particular case, I'm actually not going to do that here. So this is all I have to do in this first step. So the next thing I'm going to do is clicking this next button. And this is where it becomes interesting, right? So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to set up the source data fields and tables that we want Copilot to use when generating that summary. And you'll notice when I click on Add Data, it's now starting with this first line that I can configure. So you're going to see for the data type, we have two different options. We have one-to-one and we have one-to-many. Now, this is not 100% accurate if we're talking about one-to-many and many-to-one, right? Because there's really not a one-to-one relationship. So let me explain this. So for one-to-one, what we can do is we can actually select the root record type, right? So that is the root table that I selected in my previous screen. Now we know that this is for the customer asset, right? So that's why you see customer asset over here. The other thing that we can do is we can actually select related record types. And this is record types that we not have a one-to-one relationship with, but a many-to-one relationship with, right? So we can actually select an account because, again, from the customer asset perspective, we have a many-to-one relationship with accounts. And then you can see some other relationships here as well, like products. You can see owner, manufacturer, can also be something that is on there as well, right? Many different things that we can use here. Now, for this example, I'm going to start with some columns from the customer asset table. The next field here is my data field, and this is where I'm going to select the column from this table that I want to include in this summary. Now, you'll notice that there's actually additional columns on here because I have some custom columns that I created from my customer asset table as well, which means that we could add some of them in here as well. Now, you will also notice that not all of the columns for the customer asset table, for any table that you're going to select in here, will be available. And this is mainly because not all the data types for those columns are going to be available for that summary. So what I'm going to do here is the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select the name, and then I want to enter a description to really tell Copilot what this field, what data this field is capturing. So I'm going to enter here, this is the name of the asset. So again, that Copilot kind of understands what it does. So I can add some other things in here as well. Let's go ahead and say we want to also add some information about the account that owns the asset, right? Again, I want to put in the account name, and I'm going to say this is the name of the account. I can even say owning account. There we go. So that's how you can add these one-to-one data types. Obviously, I can also say, let's go ahead and also put the functional location in there as well, right? And then we want the name of that functional location. And we can say this is the location the asset is located at. right? So that's kind of how you do that. And obviously you can add a lot more here. Now let's talk about the different tables that we have a one-to-many relationship with. So the customer asset, one to many records or rows from another table. So let's go ahead and say, right, these are all the different related record types that we have that one-to-many relationship with. Let's say we want to add any notes that are related to this customer asset. So I'm going to say note. You can see here that this naming convention should be pretty familiar, right? We've seen this before. This is actually the note table, and the relationship is through the regarding lookup field, right, to the customer asset. Then I'm going to go ahead and grab the description because that's really all the note information, right? The body of the note. And then I can say here, note related to the asset. And this is, again, you can obviously add more tables in here as well. Let's also go ahead and do the product table. If I can find that. Oh, this one is not on here. Let's just go ahead and see what else we have. We can also put activities in there. We could put emails in there, all different kinds of things. All right, so once you're done with this, you can go ahead and click on Save and Close. Now, it is important to understand that you need to make sure that you have enough data, right? So what do I mean by that? For Copilot to generate a summary, there have to be at least 38 words across all of the columns that it's using. So in total, customer asset name, account name, functional location name, and the description of the note, right? All the data in there. All of that, for all of those different columns, the total word count across all of those columns have to be 38 or more. If there's less than 38 words, the summary is not going to be created, and you're going to see a message that says that there was not enough information to generate the summary, right? So keep that in mind as well. I'm just going to go ahead and click on Save and Close. And what you see here now is it's actually telling me, right, that new custom record summary has been created. Next, go to Makers page in Power Apps and use this GUID over here to publish the summary to agents. And you also see the same GUID over here. Now, this was a little bit confusing to me. I wasn't sure what they meant by that, right? When I clicked here on Power Apps, nothing really happened. It just opened the designer for me, but it was opening this on my app screen. So what I ended up doing is I actually contacted Microsoft and I asked them, okay, so what's the next thing that I need to do here? So let me show you that. So two different things that we need to do. We actually need to add a summary control to one or more forms, right, from the table that I just configured. And then the other thing that we need to do is we also need to add an event handler to the form that has some JavaScript in there that will make sure that when your form loads, that summary will be visible to your users. So let's go ahead and add that summary control to the form first. I'm going to go here to tables. We already knew that we were looking for the customer asset table, right? That was a table for which I configured that summary. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up. I'm going to navigate to forms, and then you can pick any of those forms you want this to be on, obviously, from this list, right? You got to make sure that this is going to be a main form, right? So I'm going to go here to, let me just go to customer asset 1 because I believe that is actually in my environment. Model-driven app. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to drag a single line of text field here on my form. And the reason for that is because the summary control can only be added to a single line of text field. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this asset tag. This is an out-of-the-box field that we have here. So I'm going to just go ahead and drag that onto the form. And obviously, it doesn't matter where you put it. You can put it anywhere on that form. I'm just going to put it right below the name column here. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change the label of that. And that's just, you don't have to do that, but that just makes it easier to locate the column that you're using, right, to configure that Copilot summary. And of course, later on, I'm going to hide that label as well. Then I'm going to expand this component area, and I'm going to click here on the plus component, because what I want to do is I want to add the Copilot case summary control. Now, if you don't see the Copilot case summary control in this list, all you have to do is click here on Get More Components. I'm just going to go ahead and click on that, and then you can search for the components. And obviously, I'm not going to see it here in this list because it was already in my previous list, right? You're going to select it, and then you can click on Add, which again, I'm not going to do right now. But when you do that, you will then see it here showing up in this list. So I'm going to click on this Copilot case summary control. And there's two things that we have to configure. So the first thing is the incident ID. And what this means, this should really say table ID or row ID, right? Because this holds the unique identifier of the record in this particular column. So this is always going to be the name of the table, and then in parentheses, you're going to see text in there. That's that customer asset ID. So I'm going to select that. And then the next thing that I need to do is in the static value field, I need to put in that GUID of that summary record that I just created in customer service. So let me just pop back into customer service. And here you can see that developer summary ID. That's what we're looking for. And you're going to probably think, oh, this actually looks like Dataverse record ID. Well, that's because it is, because this actually creates a row inside of Dataverse. So now I'm going to go ahead and pop back into my configuration. We want to leave, we don't want to leave this page here. And I'm going to copy this unique ID in here. I'm going to click done. And that's all we have to do for now. Now, the next thing that we need to do is add the event handler to this form so that that particular setting that we just created here, this summary, so that's actually going to be visible. I'm going to go ahead and now click here on the tree view icon, and I'm going to go to the top layer over here, which is my customer asset. Then I'm going to go and click here on events. And we want this to be an onload event. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to add an event handler over here. Now, what I'm looking for is the Copilot case summary library. So I want to go ahead and see if that's here, which most likely it's not. Nope. So I'm going to add that library. I'm going to go ahead and search for that. And here we go. Here is the Copilot case summary library. And I actually used the name that you see over here to find it. And I'm going to click add. And then I need to go ahead and select it. Right here it is. Then what I need to do is I actually need to enter what the function is going to be. And I'm going to go ahead and copy that. And let me show you that. So this is the function. I also have the link to the article in the video description as well. So you can go ahead and copy and paste it from there as well, so that you don't have to read exactly, right? Everything you don't have to type, I should say, all of these different things that you see in here. Now, the other thing that we want to make sure is enabled is the pass execution context as first parameter. So we want to go ahead and do that as well. And then what we want to do is we need to enter the information here, right? The comma separated list of parameters that will be passed through the function. So the first thing I want to do is I actually need to add the name of the column that I used here earlier in the setup, and that's actually asset tag. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that and put that in here. So you have to make sure that you're using these little quotes as well. Then I'm going to go ahead and do a comma. Then I'm going to do quotes as well. And then I'm going to go back to my setup in the Customer Service Admin Center, and I'm going to copy this GUID again. I'm going to go back here to my form, and I'm going to paste that GUID in here, and I'm going to put another quote in here. I'm going to click here on done. And the last step that I need to do here is I need to save and publish my. And that is all of the setup that you have to do if you want to add this summary section to a form. Now, I did want to show you some additional things here as well. Let me just go back here to the Customer Service Admin Center. Now, you can see, right, this is that setup that we just did. But if you want to remove that, you can just check, right, whichever of those record summaries you want to remove, and then you can click here on Remove Data. Now, what you see here is that it says this action only removes the summary data setup. If you remove the data without deleting or unpublishing the summary in Power Apps, it will create an error in the agent experience. What they mean by that is that you would actually have to go back to this form and then remove all of these things that we did. So we're going to remove this setup on this field, right, on this column. So you can just remove this column, click on the column, and then click delete. And then you're going to go back here to the header, to the events, to the unload event, right? And this is that particular guy. You can delete that from here as well. Like it's shown in that message that you see here in Customer Service Admin Center. If you don't do that, then you're going to be, your agents are going to see errors in the app, right? So you want to make sure that you do that as well. And then lastly, what I wanted to show you here as well is the ability to exclude information that gets into that summary, right? So if you click here on specify information to exclude, you can see here that you can select up to 10 email addresses, right? So you just click this button over here where you can just click that, and then you can start entering these email addresses. And what that means is that Copilot will actually ignore emails from those email addresses. So for example, maybe you have automatic notification emails that are being sent, right, that are related to your case. What you can do then is add that email address so that Copilot is not going to use those emails to generate those summaries. So you can add up to 10, as you can see over here, to this list that we want to exclude. And then we can add 3 disclaimers or headers or footers or any of that type of information that could be ignored here as well. And you can see there's 3 different ones, right? So this really has to do with, like, if you send out an email and it has that whole list that says this is an external email only intended for that person, blah, 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 right? Those types of things, you can add them in here as well. And they will be excluded, as you can see on the top of the screen, from both case summaries and these custom record summaries that I showed you today. Pretty cool stuff, right? This is really going to change things for other tables now as well, right? And not just those out-of-the-box tables that we could previously enable this for. So let me know what you think about this in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to hit that like button. Also, check out the videos that you see here next to me. Don't forget to subscribe so you'll never miss another video again. And as always, thanks for watching. Until next time.